Hey everybody, welcome to Sports Insider. I'm Dan Labbe. He is not Chris Fedor. He is Bud Shaw. I'm sure he will hurl more insults at Chris Fedor like he did the last time.
Big shoes,
big
shoes.
Packed show for you today. Mary Kay Cabot's going to join us to talk Browns. Chris Hoynes will talk Cavaliers with us, and then we'll talk spring training with Paul Hoynes. Let's get right to it and bring in our Browns beat reporter, Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, how are you?
I'm great, guys. How you doing?
Doing well. And Mary Kay, you just put up a slideshow today about who the Browns should take at number 2. Tell us about it. Who'd you have at the top of the list?
Well, you know what? I went with Carson Wentz after spending a few days watching him practice at the Senior Bowl and talking to people there, talking to a number of people there, including him, and then, interviewing these guys at the Combine and talking to more people. I don't know. I just keep coming back to Carson Wentz for right now. And I think it is, all things being equal, he's a little bit bigger, and he's got the bigger hands, which, I've talked to enough people that said, hey, 9-inch hands are not a deal breaker, but, maybe there's just enough of a little tiny bit of a question mark there that if you had your choice between the two, I would say Carson Wentz.
Mary Kay, is there a sense from the people that you've spoken to that Goff is more NFL ready right now?
Yes, absolutely. He's more polished. He's more NFL ready right now. That is definitely the general consensus that he's ready to go. And Carson Wentz has started only 23 games, and that does matter. I mean, there are analytics that will tell you that more starts in college usually equate to more success at the NFL level. But if they give him a little bit of time, I don't think he should start right away. Even if the temptation was there, if they took him, I would still start Josh McCown for the first, 6-8 games or maybe even longer than that, and let him find his way and assimilate into the NFL and, get comfortable with the playbook and all of those kinds of things and work on his mechanics and whatnot. But he's a very natural athlete. He's got a very good arm. He's very mobile. He's just got a lot of things that you really do look for in a starting quarterback.
All right, Mary Kay, let's turn our eyes towards free agency. The Browns opted not to use either their franchise tag or transition tag this week. Do you agree with that decision?
I didn't really have any problem with that, but I still do think that they should make an attempt to sign their own guys. There's far too often on this team, they draft a guy or sign a guy as an undrafted free agent, like in the case of Tashaun Gibson, and then they let them walk. And, some good guys have walked out the door. And, instead of bringing on someone else's cast off, why not try to keep your own guys here? The problem, of course, is the fact that these are not their own guys per se in many cases. They are from previous regimes, and you don't have the same kind of loyalty that you do to guys that you brought in yourself. But I still think, it's worth trying to do whatever they can to keep all 4 of the big-name ones in Mitchell Schwartz, Alex Mack, Tashaun Gibson, and Travis Benjamin.
Do you see the signing of either Mack or Schwartz costing the Browns the other one, or do you see them spending the money to bring both guys back?
Well, you know what? I don't know what their thinking is, but I could see them saying, hey, you know what? We drafted Cam Erving, number 19 overall.
I think we lost Mary Kay.
I know where she was going with that. Obviously, the only reason to take him last year where they did, I think, is that they foresaw the possibility that Mack could opt out. Now, the question is, does a guy who was asked to play that many positions in his first year, does he become less of a risk to start at one of those positions? I mean, we saw him get physically handled. Yeah. If he just comes back stronger, does that make him a viable center in the NFL? It's hard to project that right now.
You certainly can't count on it, obviously. All right, we have Mary Kay back. Mary Kay, we were talking about whether re-signing one of Alex Mack or Mitchell Schwartz would cost them the other. So kind of pick up your thought where you left off.
You know what? I think that, I could see them saying, look, we drafted Cam Erving, number 19 overall last year, to slide in there and take over for Alex Mack. And if he's almost ready to do that, why pay this guy $10 million a year when we can save all that money on the cap and he's 30 years old? So, yes, I could see them saying, you know what, at that price, we are going to invest the money elsewhere, try to wrap up Mitchell Schwartz. It would be a huge investment in the offensive line. I personally think it's worth it. Because you have to protect your quarterback, especially if you're bringing a new one on board. So I would do it. I would invest the money there. But whether or not they will do it, that remains to be seen. I could see them saying, hey, you know what? We drafted our center last year. We're going to give this a go.
But Mary Kay, is Cam Irving almost ready? Or is he still the guy we saw last year get pushed all over the football field?
You know what? I don't know if he's ready yet. We don't know what he's done in the off season, but whatever he did, he better have worked hard. He better have hit the weight room. And I think he probably did, because the reports that I hear from the Browns are good, that that they're happy with his effort, that he's determined, that he wants to be great. So he must be doing some things in the off season that they are liking. But that doesn't mean that the guy's going to come back in and be good. I mean, it didn't work for Justin Gilbert. We heard great things about Justin Gilbert's offseason last year. He was working out with Joe Hayden. He was ripped. He was this and he was that. And yet he came in and he was still a colossal bust last year. So it doesn't mean that, just because you're throwing some iron around in the offseason that you're going to live up to your number one status.
All right, Mary Kay, final question here before we let you go. Call your shot on these free agents. Which one or two or which of these 4 big name free agents for the Browns do you think will be back?
You know what? I am absolutely 100% just guessing here, but I'm going to say, let's say Travis Benjamin and Mitchell Schwartz will be back.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat reporter. Thanks for the time, Mary Kay.
Thank you, guys.
I think she brings up a good point about Justin Gilbert, but I do think there is one key difference between the two, and you get it when you talk to both of them. Look, Justin Gilbert had a lot of attitude issues.
Yep.
And Cam Irving, at least whenever I interacted with him, whenever he talked to the media, seemed like a kid that wanted to get better, wanted to put in the work.
Yeah.
And his line mates as well spoke very highly.
Yeah, and you heard it from the coaches too, that it wasn't an effort issue with Cam Irving, and that's a good sign. I think with Gilbert it became an attitude and effort issue.
And of course we heard Justin Gilbert at the end of the season say that he was having trouble getting up for meetings.
He's a hard sleeper.
Early in the morning. So
apparently Fedor is too, or he would be here.
Yeah, I guess we have to try and track down Chris Fedor. Who do you think is going to be back?
Fedor.
Fedor will be back.
No, I think she hit it on the head. I think that I think they're given the market right now, and the fact that they didn't already come to terms with Mac after just negotiating with him so recently. I think he's probably gone, and I think if they can come out of this with Schwartz and Benjamin, that they'll be able to at least say we kept 2 of our good players.
Yeah, look, to tag those guys would have been so expensive. Travis Benjamin would have been over $14 million.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem with them not doing that. Listen, it's not like one of those guys is going to put them over the top this year and then they can get rid of that contract next year. That just didn't seem feasible to bring those guys back at the top of at the salary cap.
Yeah, and of course, if they draft a quarterback, that offensive line, I don't know what they'll do at center. I'm not convinced Alex Mack is going to come back. I know a lot of the talk has been that he would possibly want to come back, but yeah, Mitchell Schwartz is a guy. In today's NFL, we saw what Denver did. The right tackle position is so important. It's so vital. It's almost becoming as important as left tackle. And he's young. He's what, 26?
One of the arguments that drives me crazy, and I've heard it from various media people in town, is, well, they didn't win anything with any of those guys. And listen, I understand that might not make these guys invaluable or irreplaceable, but I'm not sure that that's the right attitude to take. You could say the Cavs haven't won anything with LeBron James. Now I know they weren't the equivalent of 3-13, but you still keep your good players and you try to keep your best players and guys that we're not just talking about your best players. We're talking about guys that have played to a Pro Bowl level. Mm-hmm. And if you can keep those guys, I think you're a better franchise and a better organization for it.
Yeah, and Hugh Jackson said at the Combine, you can't have enough playmakers. And, that seems to say you've got to bring back a guy like Travis Benjamin.
Right.
Like that would be a priority. All right, we are going to talk some Indians baseball spring training. We bring in our Indians beat reporter, Paul Hoynes, to join us. Hoynesy, how are you?
Good, guys. How you doing today?
Hey, happy birthday, Hoynes.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Hoynesy, let's look at the Indians right now and let's look at their outfield because they're going to be without Abraham Almonte. Now, it says a lot about this outfield that losing Abraham Almonte kind of has a ripple effect, but that being said, what's it going to look like without him?
Well, I think they've got a bunch of guys that can fill in there. I think probably the main guy is Tyler Naquin, the number 1 pick from 2012. He's been injured the last couple of years, but he's a center fielder. He can run a little bit. He's got a good arm. The first game here in spring training, he had a triple. So, he's an interesting guy. I think they'd love him to win the job. And, you've got Randy Grossman is there. They've got enough guys in camp where they can patch that position until they figure out exactly what they want to do. Will Venable, is a minor league. He signed a minor league deal. He's a center fielder, so they've got some options.
Paul, is leading the league in fourth outfielders a good thing or a bad thing?
That's never a good thing. It's never a good thing unless the 4 other teams in the AL Central are leading the league in fifth outfield.
Hoynes, a guy that they would like to have back in the outfield, Michael Brantley, seems like his recovery is going very well. Is he ahead of schedule?
I think they're very, very guarded with him. And I've had some people tell me, absolutely that he won't start the season on time, that he's going to open on the DL because, they don't want to put that pressure on him, that they think that would not be fair. Right now he's making progress. He's swinging the bat. He's taking soft toss. I think that'll, progress to batting practice in the cage, and eventually out into the field and into games. But the fact that they're already playing games, Cactus League games, puts him behind. So, he's gonna. I don't see a way that he's ready on April 4th. I think maybe if this continues, he comes back a little ahead of schedule. Maybe in mid-April or late April, he's back. But I think they're going to be very, very cautious with him.
Paul, who's if Brantley doesn't start the season and they have to go with a different kind of lineup, who's the leadoff hitter, do you think, on opening day?
That's a great question. I mean, they've got Rajah Davis. He led off, the first Cactus League game. They've got Jose Ramirez. He led off the second game. If it's up to me, I'm leading off Lindor. It's not my call, but I think he's the perfect leadoff hitter. I think he's a switch hitter. He can run. He'll take a walk. He can drive the ball out of the park. He's an interesting guy. I would go that way, but I don't know if they would feel that that's too much spotlight for him right now, and maybe they'd want to bat him second. So, and I don't think Kipnis is going to bat leadoff. I think he's going to bat third, for Brantley.
And now, Hoynes, speaking of the leadoff spot, there is an underground movement that I see on Twitter. I believe Terry Francona has even been asked about it, about using Carlos Santana in the leadoff spot. Is that actually a real possibility?
I don't know. I think, like all managers, I think, Francona has a little bit of a mad scientist in him. And I think the fact that Santana walks so much and has such a good on-base percentage, that's intriguing. But, he asked the Indians analytical department to do a study on just, the pros and cons of Santana leading off, and it didn't come back as good as he thought it would be. I think they thought, they would miss Santana's power, down in the middle of the lineup or a little lower in the lineup.
Hoynes, games are underway. The Indians are playing real-ish baseball, I guess. What can we take away from these first 2 games? Oh,
I don't know. Did you see Cody Anderson pitch yesterday? Oh, my. He 2 scoreless innings. He threw about 9 pitches. He's thrown 95 miles an hour in the first inning of his first spring training game. So that's the thing that jumped out at me. This guy, he looks like he's ready to pitch opening day right now. Yeah, so I was impressed with that. I thought Mike Napoli getting a couple hits yesterday, that was a good sign. He a couple singles, but he wasn't trying to hit the ball out of the park. I thought that was good. Jose Ramirez hits hits the home run out of the leadoff spot. And Jabba Chamberlain looked good, I thought, yesterday. So those are some of the things. But if I had to pick one guy, I think it would be Cody Anderson.
Honestly, I think Dan might have just stumbled across the slogan for April at Progressive Field. Come watch real-ish baseball. You've seen a number of these managers now over the years, going back to Eric Wedge, kind of grind over the, how about that, grind and Eric Wedge?
Good. Yes.
They've grinded over trying to get off to a better start. I mean, really, what can be done in that department to help assure that?
I think at Tribe Fest, when a couple days before Tribe Fest, the Indians held a mini camp, and that was kind of like a first. And I think part of the reason they did that was to just get everybody together and get everybody kind of focused a little quicker to come out of the gate quicker. So I think that was part of it. And Francona doesn't like to talk about it. He thinks if you talk about having a quick start, that puts it in the players' minds. And if they don't if they don't start fast, what happens then? But when I was out in spring training, the players were talking about it. They know they've got to start quickly. And I think a couple of years ago they did have they had a decent April under Maniatta, and they had a great record at the end of May, and then they went in the tank and had one of the worst Augusts in franchise history, and they lose 90 games or 96 games. So I don't know what the formula is. I think the one good thing, Bud, is they're not playing the AL Central 17 times in April like they did last year, and that killed them. They went 5-12 last year against the AL Central in April. And that put them in a hole that they really never recovered from. I think they're playing maybe 7 or 9 AL Central games in April. So that's a break, I think.
All right, Hoynes, we appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Hey, guess who always takes April seriously? Bud Shaw.
Are we ready to go to me?
We are.
This seems early.
It is a little early. A little early today. We had to kind of change our schedule. Chris Haynes, of course, has Cavs shoot around, so that takes priority over coming on our show.
Can we talk about one thing real quick?
Yes.
Cavs related. Did you have any problem with LeBron James going to Florida on a day off?
Not really.
I didn't either, and I'm trying to track down people who did. So
I think it's low hanging fruit if you really want to, if you need to fill radio airtime or something like that. But the guy had a few days off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like a bye week.
Well, the reason I ask is that I just so happened to have written something about that today, and I want to talk about it.
Well, let's do it.
So how about that for a segue? LeBron James took an off-day flight to Florida with his wife and checked in with old friend Dwayne Wade. He met up with Wade not at a South Beach nightclub or atop a supersized inflatable swan, but at a gym, working out on his day off. I mean, how dare he? I believe he was seen doing curls with a dumbbell and not a magnum of ace of spades. Do you know what ace of spades is?
Sure.
Okay. Most fans seem to recognize the difference. Some sports talk hosts did not, or at least pretended not to, for the sake of conversation. What I find funnier than beating up James for a Florida getaway in March is how people change James's name when they're less than happy with him. If Le Day Off needs to get away from it all, says our first commenter, why isn't he at home resting on his couch? You see what he did there? LeBron, Le Day Off.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
really
pretty sure.
flows.
Yeah, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure LeBron wasn't standing around for 30 minutes at the airport wishing he had paid for TSA pre-check. I'm pretty sure he was off his feet. An emailer sent me this next one saying, LeBaron and the Cavs are built to fail like an old Chrysler. Because you see, Dan, LeBaron is an old Chrysler.
I see what he did there.
Look, James went to Florida for an extended trip last year and came back refreshed. The only difference this time is that he left another passive-aggressive tweet behind. But that's a different topic. This trip doesn't strike me as a big deal. The Cavs have a long, demanding road ahead of them to get to the playoffs and a long playoff season. Their second-best player just recently missed part of a game because of bed bugs. If I were LeBron James, I'd want to get out of town and clear my head of that too. A core player, our final commenter, finds it curious that a team that needs to practice cancels practice. And he says, top that, Browns. I'm going to go out on the limb here and say that the Browns could top that one pretty easily. I mean, LeBron wasn't in disguise in South Beach calling himself by another name. When that happens, LaBilly is fair game. See what I did there?
That was good.
Thanks.
That was really good.
Appreciate that.
Not as good as LeBaron.
No, but it was close.
That was still
See,
good.
I put the "le" in front of Billy.
Yeah, we need like a name generator for LeBron James somewhere. You know, the thing about the NBA is all this stuff goes away when the playoffs hit.
Yeah.
And all these guys are getting asked questions about is the game. LeBron goes off Twitter in the playoffs. I don't know if that fixes everything for this team, but it's got to make things at least a little bit better.
Yeah, well, I was on 92.3 earlier this morning, and they asked me about this. And the question, I guess, was does it bother players to look up and see him in Miami Beach with Wade? I don't know. I can't answer for them. To me, I would be more bothered if that tweet was about me.
Yeah.
Then I would want to sit down and say, hey, man, you call yourself a leader. Lead. Tell me to my face what your problem is. Don't go on Twitter and have, because you know what's going to happen. They're going to be out at shoot around or practice, and media is going to ask him about it. Then they're going to ask Kyrie Irving about it. They're going to ask Kevin Love about it. Do you think that was about you? I mean, it's just too much drama. I mean, come on. We're not in high school anymore.
And it was what got talked about during the Brown season. People would always be critical. Why do you guys always ask about Johnny Manziel? Well, you kind of have to. He's out there making headlines.
Yes.
You have to ask people how it's affecting them and what impact it has on the team. And it very clearly had an impact on the team.
Yes.
It's kind of it's a fine line. All right. Thanks to Mary Kay Cabot. Thanks to Paul Hoynes. Thanks, of course, to Bud Shaw. No thanks to Chris Fedor, who did not show up again today. This was another edition of Sports Insider. I'm Dan Labbe. Thanks for watching.